Chapter 4. Kamiter, the Printing Press, Board Games, and the Feluc Foundation Festival. Once the Loomis colony was up and running, both Felix and Lucas began their return journey, accompanied by subordinates and Estari and his group. After a few days' travel, they arrived in Feluc. Estari observed the city's architecture and how humans and non-humans interacted. They worked together, bought and sold goods, or simply enjoyed each other's company. When they arrived in the city, several people of all races saw them and erupted in cheers. Lords Felix and Lord Lucas have returned. They bowed to them, their faces beaming with joy. "We must go to the government building first, Lord Estari," Felix said, somewhat embarrassed by the displays of affection. "You are truly loved by your people. I am impressed," the Telera leader said. They walked to the central area of the city and entered the government building where Gazlo and Aeronais, who had been waiting for them for weeks, were seating. Both smiled and bowed. "Welcome, my lords," they said almost simultaneously. Then Aeronais looked at the visitors. "Welcome, distinguished visitors," he said with another bow, addressing Estari. "These are some of my subordinates, Aeronais and Gazlo," Felix said, though he disliked using that word, but it was the custom in that world. He had tried to avoid being treated like a king, but in the end, he gave in and let them continue to bestow honorifics upon him. As they sat down in the meeting room, the door opened, and an Amazigh maiden, who had agreed to work there, appeared and asked, "Would my lords and visitors like some Jaina tea?" "Yes, please, Tila." "Would you like some tea, Lord Estari?" Felix asked. "I've never tasted Jaina tea." "Very well. Yes, please," Estari replied. While the girls served them the tea, they began the meeting. "Very well, Lord Estari. We have already spoken to you about the danger the Gors represent. We have made much progress for our people, but all of this could be destroyed by the Gors. It may take them years to get here, but we don't want them at the city gates before we can do anything about it," said Felix. "Forgive me, my lords. I know it's inappropriate to tell you this now, but one of our children's pranks led them straight to an Akun's village. Their leader and 2 of his men are staying in one of our goose houses, the one we use for giant guests. I took the liberty of using money from the city treasury to pay for it," Gazlo explained. Neither Felix nor Lucas had ever seen the Akuns before, but it represented a possible alliance. "Very well, let our visitors meet. The last time I saw the Akuns, I was barely 60 years old. I'd like to meet them again," the Telera leader said, intrigued. "What prank are you referring to?" Lucas asked, worried. "Apparently, they had an encounter with a Larkon and fell into the river fleeing from it, and the current carried them near the village of the Akuns," Gazlo finished explaining. Both Felix and Lucas ran their hands over their faces, saying, "What are we going to do with these children? Don't be too hard on them, gentlemen. I suspect you also did some crazy things when you were young," Estari said, smiling. "Exactly. That's why I'm worried. I don't want to lose them," Lucas replied. "It's understandable, but sooner or later they'll leave the nest," the Telera leader responded. "I'd rather it be later than sooner," Lucas retorted. "We'll talk to them when we get home," Felix declared. Just then, there was a knock at the door, and Gazlo decided to answer it. The imposing figure of Ixtales appeared. "You must be the Felix and Lucas I've heard so much about," he said, stepping through the doorway. "Please, sit here," Lucas said, showing him an enormous chair. "Pleased to meet you. My name is Ixtales. Nice to meet you. I am Felix. This is Lucas, and our new friend is Lord Estari of the Telera." "Now," said Lucas. "Greetings," said Estari, standing and bowing. Once the new guest was seated, Felix began. "We were discussing the threat of the Gor," Felix remarked. "Gors? I've never heard of them," said the visitor. "That's right, but they live on the continent of Tentrila. They're trying to eliminate or enslave the other races so that only they will occupy this world. We received this information from the Lighters. They took refuge on this continent, fleeing from them," Lucas explained. "So these are the dangerous times Callel referred to," the Akun leader commented. "That axe you have is made of steel. Or am I mistaken?" Lucas asked. "I'm surprised you recognize that metal. All the weapons and armor I've seen here are made of bronze." "You're right. We have tried to develop a viable technique to produce steel from iron, but we have not been able to," Lucas explained. "Well, we have a very skilled armorer, but we don't have much iron, and we also have trouble getting enough food, which doesn't seem to be a problem for you. Although I've visited your market, and instead of bartering goods, you exchange them for tokens of different metals," Ixtales observed. "Yes, It's a system similar to the one the Empire used to exchange goods and services. It's easier to determine the price of products and to pay workers a fixed wage. Also, when a farmer is struggling, they can be lent money until they get back on their feet, Lucas replied. But wouldn't that present an opportunity for someone influenced by Zril to take advantage of the system to get more than their fair share? The Akun leader asked. That could happen. So we have laws to prevent it, and we make sure we have people supervising transactions and keeping records of them. But the more people live in the city, the more complicated it becomes to manage. Records, reading, and writing have only been the privilege of magicians and a few rich people, Ixtales retorted. That was before. Now we have schools to teach children and adults to read and write, Felix replied. So everyone here can read the scripts left by the Empire, the Akun remarked. Not exactly. We designed a writing system that's easier to understand than the Empire's, Lucas explained. Very good, I'm impressed. I'll return to my village to tell them all about this, the Akun chief concluded. That's very good, but you shouldn't leave empty-handed, since they told me you have problems getting supplies. Feluc will make you and your people a gift. We've already arranged for carts with food to accompany you, along with 2 people to help prepare it if necessary. We also want Lord Rados, who is here today, to join you, as well as one of our blacksmiths, Zenai's, Shinri's son, he said, gesturing to Rados and Zenai's, who were standing side by side, having arrived moments before. Thank you for this honor, Lord Felix, said Rados. I also thank you for this opportunity, Lord Felix, agreed Zenai's. During the journey, Estalesh and Rados struck up a conversation. Since you're a giant, I have a question. By tradition, giants follow the strongest. So I don't understand why you follow Lord Felix, Estalesh began. Oh, that's easy. He's much stronger than I am. He defeated me in combat single-handedly and could have killed me, but he didn't. So I feel indebted to him, Rados replied. So he's strong enough to defeat a giant, the Akun leader said, impressed. I used to be the leader of my clan and planned to subjugate other races like the Terrids and the humans. But he stopped all those dreams of grandeur. He and his brother are truly strong, but they don't abuse their power. They use it to benefit all races. They are not only strong but also wise, the giant said admiringly. And I would be a fool not to form an alliance with you. Ixtales retorted. That's true, Lord Ixtales, and not only that. You should also consider joining our nation, the giant assured him. I would have to discuss that with my people. Oh, don't worry. The threat of the Gores will still take a few years to manifest itself, the giant assured him. Several weeks passed, and one night, while Felix and Lucas slept, Zariel appeared before them. I'm sorry to wake you, but you have a visitor, and he has something important to tell you. You'll find him outside the city's east gate. The 2 brothers opened their eyes at the same time. They both decided to get out of bed and dress as quietly as possible so as not to wake their wives. Who goes there? One of the sentries asked when they were near the city gate. Don't be alarmed, it's us, Lucas said gently. My lords, he said, bowing. They didn't like that kind of address, but they had grown accustomed to it. Open the gate, please. We'll just step out for a moment, but we'll be right back, Felix ordered. Outside, they saw Amitu, Lingyu's lieutenant. Of course, with the lighters, it wasn't as easy to distinguish one from another as with other races. Greetings and good evening to you both, he said with a bow. Very well, Lord Amitu. I'm sure you didn't fly all this way from your mountain just to say hello, Felix said. You're right. I come on behalf of my people to ask for your help, not for ourselves, but for the race of humans who helped us on one of the islands where we stopped when we were fleeing the threat of the Gores, the lighter explained, looking at them with his large red eyes. Humans? Who are they? Felix asked. They call themselves the Adonias. They look like you, but their skin is much darker and their hair is cullier. They have a problem with a talent. We heard that you killed one, Amitu explained. But you are strong, sir. Can't you do this? Lucas asked. Yes, but we can't go out during the day. The sunlight is too much for our eyes, and we don't know where it hides at night, the lighter replied. Very well, but they are on an island. How are we supposed to get there? Felix asked. Please forgive us. We hadn't thought of that. Amitu apologized. Very well, we'll see what we can do tomorrow. Thank you for letting us know, Felix said. Have a very good night, and sorry for disturbing your sleep, their visitor said. Both Lucas and Felix headed to the city gate, and the guards opened it for them. By the time they reached their homes, sleep was overcoming them, and they fell into a deep slumber. Zariel appeared to them again. I suspect all this is your doing. Or am I mistaken? Felix asked suspiciously. Oh, how suspicious, Zariel said, feigning offense. Very well. That's right. I want you to help them. The Talids are a creation of my brother Euphril, the spirit of wrath, Zariel explained. I imagine you have a suggestion for how we might reach that island. Right, Zariel? Lucas asked. Well, yes. It turns out your friend Zenjace has made great strides in a short time in the art of shipbuilding. He even has a working prototype, the spirit explained, smiling. How is that possible? He's only been there a few months, Lucas replied. Ah, but I've been communicating with Alios to speed things up a bit, Zariel said. You're always scheming something, aren't you? Felix said irritably. And what did you expect? I don't need to sleep, and I've lived for millions of years. You're the most interesting thing to have happened here in a long time. Well, if you don't want to help those humans, I'll understand. You know us too well to know we wouldn't refuse, Zariel, Felix replied. Very well, they're about to wake up. Goodbye, the deity said. The two brothers got up and spoke with their families. They would have to make another trip to Loomis. Their families reluctantly agreed. When they gathered in the boardroom of the government building, they explained the situation. Aeronais, Gazlo, Deslet, Rados, Talos Fellner, and Epitras were all there. Very well. Last night we received a messenger from the Lighters. They want us to assist a tribe of humans who helped them. Now they need help against a Talid, Felix explained. I don't understand. If they're on an island, how could a Talid have reached them? Talos asked. We don't know, but we have to get there to help them. Lucas answered. And how will it be possible to get there? Gazlo asked. We'll have to go to Loomis and speak with Zenjace. According to Zariel, he's already built a ship. Oh, I forgot you can speak directly with Zariel, Aeronais asserted. If you're going to fight a Talid, allow me the honor of facing him, Rados requested, having returned from the village of the Acuans. Do you really want to fight him? Felix asked. You were the one who defeated me, so I have no doubt you would beat him without any trouble. But it's been years since I've had a real challenge. I want to know if I'm losing my skills, even though I'm still training directly with you, the giant explained. Actually, you are much stronger than you used to be. Very well, Rados, your mission will be to defeat him, but don't kill him. We want to ask him some questions, Lucas told him. Defeat him without killing him? That's an even greater challenge. I can't wait to face him, Rados said, smiling. Preparations for the expedition to Loomis began once again. 2 days later, they set off on their journey. The trip was uneventful until they reached the ancient capital of the empire. A few days later, the group arrived in Loomis, almost at nightfall. Upon arrival, they were greeted by some of the colonists. Each and every one of them felt grateful to the brothers and perhaps admired them too much. There, Alios welcomed them. Welcome, my lords. Is there a problem? We weren't expecting you until next month, the young mage inquired. Yes, we need to speak with Zenjace, Lucas replied. We received a message from the Lighters. There is a race of humans who need our help, Felix explained. I understand. It's time for dinner. Please come in. I'll go fetch Zenjace so he can dine with you, Alios said as he left. When they were seated at the table and a young woman from the Alishian tribe brought them the various dishes, they decided to wait for the carpenter instead of starting to eat immediately. Rados sat in a chair specially designed for him, and Alios was among them. Upon arriving, Zenjace bowed. Don't be so formal. Please, sit with us, Felix said, gesturing to the place at the table the girl had set. The carpenter sat down somewhat nervously. His brother had told him a lot about them, and he felt insignificant in their presence. We've heard you already have a ship built, Lucas said with a smile. This took the carpenter by surprise. No one besides his assistant and Alios knew that. How did my lords know that? He asked timidly. Zariel told us. Zariel? He asked, astonished. So it was true. They communicated directly with the deity. They were superior to him, a mere laborer. We'd like to see it early tomorrow, if possible. It doesn't have to be ready by tomorrow. We just want to see how far you've come in its construction. We know your work isn't easy, Lucas indicated. When Lucas said this, Zenjace sighed with relief. Thank you, my lord. Go to your family. There's a lot of work to do tomorrow, Felix said. Then Zenjace withdrew, and once he was gone, they exchanged smiles. Was it just me, or did the guy acted like we were going to send him to the gallows? Lucas wondered. He's not used to dealing with important people, like you, Alios replied. We're not as important as he thinks, or as you think, Felix asserted. Well, you have great power over our people. It would be terrible if you succumbed to Chill's influence, Alios explained. Our mother didn't raise us to be tyrants, but to try to help others. Besides, Zariel would withdraw his power and support if that happened. Felix replied, Ah, I see. And if I may offer an opinion, I think your mother was an exceptional woman, Aelios said sincerely. The next morning, Aelios took the brothers to the workshop Zenjais had set up next to the Loomis shipyard. The carpenter opened the door and showed them. First, a trireme like those used by the ancient Greeks, then a galley, and finally, a ship that resembled a caravel. All of these are the result of Mr. Aelios's research in the Loomis library and our work. The first one, although it has a sail, its movement depends on people rowing, but it's not very fast. We already tested it, and rowing requires extremely strong and resilient people. Not to mention that there must be at least 170 of them. Then there's the galley. Its sails are larger, but it also depends on people rowing. And finally, this one, it depends solely on its sails, Zenjais explained, pointing to one that resembled a sloop. Impressive. Did you build all of these yourself? Not just me, my assistant is very skilled. His name is Texo. Also, we hired some laborers. He should be here soon. I sent him to the forest to fetch wood, Zenjais said. I imagine it can't be just any wood, Lucas remarked. That's true, Mr. Lucas. I believe what my brother said about you is true. You have knowledge in many fields, the carpenter said admiringly. Not as many as you think, Lucas replied. I have a question for you, Felix announced. When will your creation be ready to set sail? Zenjais' eyes widened. He hadn't expected that question. I don't know, my lord, he said, lowering his head. Don't feel bad, Lucas said, placing his hand on Zenjais' shoulder. What you've been doing is admirable. What you're trying to do hasn't been done in at least 1,000 years. Those words cheered the carpenter. Thank you, my lord. But may I ask a question? Zenjais asked timidly. Don't be afraid. Ask us anything you like, Felix replied, also placing his hand on Zenjais' shoulder. Why do you want my ship to sail as soon as possible? I'm glad you asked. It turns out there's a race of humans on a nearby island, and they're being attacked by a Talit, Felix replied. Oh, I've heard stories of how you slew the terrible Garrick with your magic weapons. They aren't magic, Lucas said. Still they are powerful, Zenjais said with an expression of admiration bordering on adoration. They are products of knowledge, just like your boats, only more advanced. Someday I'll tell you the whole story, Lucas replied. Just then, a burly man arrived in a cart pulled by a horse, loaded with tree trunks. This is Texo, the carpenter indicated. Texo got out of the cart, walked over to them, and bowed. Mr. Felix and Mr. Lucas, I've heard so many stories about you since I was a child. It's an honor to be in your presence, Texo said. The brothers had grown accustomed to the heroic treatment they received from people who only knew them by reputation. That night, they received a visit from Amitu. Greetings, lords of Feluc, the lighter said with something that resembled a smile on his face. Zenjais was among them, and seeing his imposing figure, he couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. Seeing his reaction, Lucas placed his hand on his shoulder to reassure him. Don't be afraid. They are our friends, Lucas said, which comforted the carpenter. Seated around a table inside a building in ancient Loomis, converted into a meeting room, were Felix, Lucas, Aelios, Amitu, Zenjais, and Texo. Very well, there are still more preparations to be made on the ship, as Mr. Zenjais, who is here with us, told us. Felix said to begin the meeting. Then Amita spoke. I can guide you from the air, but only at night. So we spoke with Maya of the Vinfos to guide you during the day. The journey will only last 3 days at most, the lighter commented. Yes, the Vinfos will guide us. Is there any danger of any sea creature attacking you? Lucas asked. No. The area between Loomis and the island has shallow water, and the Vinfos are experts at fighting off predators. Very few predators bother them. Zenjais felt intimidated by all this talk. Lighters, Vinfos, marine predators? He was just a carpenter. It all seemed like too much. Then Lucas suggested something that left him stunned. Considering that Mr. Zenjais knows the most about this vessel, I suggest we appoint him captain. What do you say to that, Zenjais? Lucas finished with a smile. This took him by surprise. I couldn't. I'm not a man of action. I'm just a simple carpenter. I suggest you appoint Texo, who's here. He would make a far better captain than I ever could. I've shared my knowledge with him, and he is a man of action. Texo hadn't expected his boss to put him in the spotlight like this. Is that true? Felix asked, turning to Texo. Zenjay's assistant shrank at first, but then straightened up in his seat. I didn't know, mister. Zenjay's thought that way about me, said the assistant. Don't you remember how last month you faced a Faliona that tried to devour me, and you managed to scare it off with just your sword and a torch? You're strong, brave, and intelligent, Zenjay affirmed. Texo blushed at the praise, but said nothing. What do you think, Felix? Lucas asked. Very well, Texo. You'll be captain for this mission, Felix declared. But I've never had anyone under my command before, Zenjay's assistant protested. Don't worry, Texo. Nobody is born knowing everything, Lucas told him. If you all have so much confidence in me, it will be an honor to accept the position. The remaining days were a frenzy of activity. All the preparations and details were completed to perfection. The vessel was named the Defender. The group found it strange that the brothers had decided to name a vessel, but they explained that it had been a long-standing tradition dating back to ancient times. In fact, Aelios had found records of vessel names at the Empire's library. On the island, the Adonias fought in vain against Kamiter, the Cyclops that attacked them. While the men fought, the women carried the children to their new refuge. When they received the signal, a horn blast, that all the people were safe, they suspended their battle against the Cyclops and fled in different directions. The Cyclops decided not to pursue them and began collecting the corpses of his attackers. This will feed me for several days, he thought, but hunting them is very boring. I have defeated all the beasts that could pose a challenge to me. I would like a real challenge. On the mainland, he had attacked a settlement of the Teleras, a race similar to the Teleras whose skin and hair were dark. They lived by fishing and had built rudimentary rafts by lashing logs together with rope. They all decided to abandon the mainland in favor of a safer island. Kamiter found their abandoned settlement, but he also found one of their rafts, which they had abandoned in their haste. He was surprised that it could support his weight, so he decided to pursue them, but he couldn't find the island where they had taken refuge. Instead, he found the island occupied by the Adonia. When he arrived, he found many beasts that satisfied his desire for a challenge and his voracious appetite. When the large beasts began to dwindle, Kamiter turned his attention to the Adonias. By then, the Adonia had befriended the Lighters. Although the Lighters were strong, they hadn't found the cave that sheltered the Talit. The Lighters left, but promised to find help. As things stood, the Adonia didn't expect the Lighters to keep their promise. In fact, they believed they had been abandoned. And so it would have been if the Lighters hadn't encountered the people of Feluc. Several days later, the preparations were complete. Felix, Lucas, Rados, Amitu, Texo, and Zenjay boarded the Defender. Lucas held Amita's hand because he had to cover his eyes. The daylight was too bright for him. Texo and Zenjay hoisted the sails, and the wind pushed the small ship out of the bay. As they sailed, the brothers saw schools of fish in the clear waters, and further out, even larger fish leaping above the waves. Then they saw several creatures catching them with the jaws at the ends of their long necks. Those look like plesiosaurs, said one Lucas them. I think some of them reached the locks of Scotland, giving rise to the legend of Nessie. Meanwhile, Maya and several of her companions swam alongside the boat. In the deepest part of the boat, Amita slept. Their work would begin at nightfall. Maya and her companions pointed out the direction they should go to find the island. Several hours later, almost at nightfall, they sighted the island. By the time they anchored, it was already dark, and Amita got out of the boat. I'm going to look for the cave where they took refuge. If they're not there, it means they went to their emergency shelter. Flying over the tops of the tallest trees, he spotted the entrance to the cave where they had taken refuge, but when he entered, he found it deserted. This means Kamiter found this shelter. I'll go to the second one, he said to himself, and he flew to the other side of the island. There he spotted the entrance to the second shelter, so he landed. The men stationed as guards in front of the cave entrance saw him and came out to greet him. Welcome, Lord Amitu, they greeted him. I've come with help, as we promised, said Amitu. I'll go find our friends. Very well, we'll wake Chief Alarka. Amita took flight and headed towards the Defender, where the brothers and the others were waiting. I found them, he said upon seeing them. The brothers decided to leave Texo and Zenjay in the boat and accompanied the lighter. He led them on foot to the other side of the island. He looked somewhat strange walking, and it was clear he wasn't used to it. 2 hours after venturing into the thicket, they reached the cave entrance. There, a middle-aged man with curly hair, a receding hairline, and some gray hair awaited them. his men flanking him on either side. Lucas and Felix decided that Rados shouldn't reveal himself just yet, so as not to frighten their prospective friends. "Welcome, I am Alarka, chief of our tribe. How did you manage to get here?" he asked, intrigued. "We have a friend who built us a boat," Lucas said, flashing his best smile. "But you don't seem strong enough to face Kamiter," the tribal chief said with some skepticism. "Perhaps, but we have a giant friend who wishes to test himself against him," Felix said, grinning. "A giant? What kind of powers do you possess to tame such a creature and make it do your bidding?" the chief asked incredulously. "Well, I did have to defeat him in combat when we first met, but he has been a loyal friend all these years." "Where is this giant now?" he asked skeptically. Felix signaled, and Rados emerged from behind a large rock and approached them, causing Alarka and his men to flinch in fear. "Greetings, Lord Alarka. Lord Amida has told us much about you. Although Lord Felix or Lord Lucas could easily defeat him, I have been granted the honor of fighting him," the giant explained. "By the way, how did you get here?" Lucas asked curiously. "Our ancestors arrived here after the fall of the Empire. They knew how to navigate, but it was never necessary for us, so we never did," the tribe's chief explained. "Very well, it's getting late. We'll return early tomorrow and look for the talent," Felix said. And so they began their return to the Defender by moonlight, while Amitu explored the island and hunted small animals for food. As morning approached, the lighter returned to the boat, and the other expedition members began to stir. Rados had slept sitting on the deck, and the others tried to sleep in hammocks, but they weren't used to them and didn't sleep well. Texo and Zenjay stayed on board again, but Felix and the others headed to the cave that served as a refuge for the Adonias. Chief Alarka had already ordered a search for the talent. The group waited by the cave entrance. Suddenly, a shout was heard. One of the tribe members came running, pursued by Kamiter. He noticed the group, especially Rados, and immediately ignored the man he had been chasing. "A giant, have you come to challenge me?" the Talid asked with satisfaction. It turned out that there had been a rivalry between the giants and the Talids since time immemorial. Both the giants and the Talids saw combat with the other as the ultimate challenge. The Talid took his club, fashioned from a tree trunk, as was the custom of his race. Rados gripped his sword with both hands, just as he had been trained by the two brothers. They exchanged blows with their respective weapons. Kamiter, seeing his attacks repeatedly blocked, decided to intensify his attacks, but they had no effect on the giant. Then he tried to kick him, but Rados blocked the attempt with his leg and saw his opportunity, striking Talid with the flat of his sword into his opponent's side. Remembering his order not to kill him, pain was reflected on Talid's face. "Why didn't you use the edge of your sword?" he asked. "Because my lord ordered me to defeat you without killing you, if possible," Rados replied with a smile. "I think your lord is mistaken if he believes you can defeat me without using lethal force," Kamiter stated. "On the contrary," the giant said, throwing his sword away. "I am sure I can, and I will," adopting the basic karate stance. "I think your lord, whoever he is insane. He thinks you can defeat me unarmed. But I will honor your challenge and not use mine," he said, throwing his club away and raising his fists. This impressed the brothers. Even beings as savage as the Talid had a sense of honor. The two colossi began exchanging blows. Although the Talid's blows lacked technique, they possessed great power, but they were easily blocked by the giant. All of Rados's blows connected, causing Kamiter to roar in pain. "I think you've toyed with him enough, Rados," Felix remarked. After observing the easiness with Rados was fighting the Cyclops without breaking a sweat. "As my lord commands," the giant replied, delivering a blow to the abdomen and a roundhouse kick to the jaw, causing him to stagger and fall to the ground. A darkness enveloped him. "This is where my life ends," he thought, or at least that's what he believed, and he collapsed senseless. Then shouts of joy and cheers erupted from the entire Adonia tribe, who had emerged from the cave and were watching the fight intently. "Congratulations, Rados. You have grown very strong," said Felix. "I am not yet as strong as my lord," he said, bowing his head humbly. Upon hearing this, all the Adonia present, beginning with Chief Alarka, knelt. "We wish to serve you from now on in exchange for your protection, mighty Lord Felix," Alarka declared, and the others seconded him. The Adonia looked extremely thin. "Tell me, Lord Alarka, are you having trouble finding food?" Felix asked. We have had great difficulty finding food because there are not as many animals or plants as before. Besides, we have to defend ourselves against Kamiter's attacks, Alarka explained. What if we take you to our colony in Loomis? Lucas asked. Loomis? The cursed city? The Adonia leader exclaimed. Well, we built a wall around the cursed part of the city. No one can enter that area, but the rest of the city is safe. It just needs clearing some vegetation, and many buildings are still usable. At that moment, Kamiter awoke to find himself bound hand and foot under Rados's watchful eye. Why am I not dead? He asked, intrigued. My lord ordered me not to kill you. Remember? Rados replied. Just then, Felix and Lucas arrived, walking towards him. Kamiter noticed Rados's submissive attitude towards Felix and understood. How is it possible that a mere human is the lord of a giant? He asked incredulously. Lords Felix and Lucas are not mere humans. They are stronger than I am, the giant explained. This revelation left the Cyclops speechless. We will take the Adonia away from here and release you when the last one is off the island. We've already made arrangements with Chief Alarka, Lucas told him. Your name is Kamiter, isn't it? Lucas asked. That's my name. Yes. The Talid stared at him with its single eye as it replied. Why didn't you kill me? After all, Talids attack humans, the Cyclops asked. Our bodies require a lot of food, and our creator, Yufril, authorized us to use others as food if there are no other sources, the Talid answered. Because you live apart from one another? Wouldn't it make more sense for a group of you to face your enemies more effectively? Felix asked. Perhaps, but Yufril decreed that we should not share the glory of victory with anyone. We can only gather once a year for mating on the continent of Tentrila, though being trapped on this island. I haven't been able to attend, Kamiter explained. It seems Yufril has no interest in your well-being. You should have someone else as your god, said Lucas. Oh, to think that way is blasphemous, Kamiter replied. Are you sure about that, Mr. Kamiter? Felix asked rhetorically. Thus began the evacuation in groups of 15. The sailboat departed, leaving Felix, Rados, and Alarka on the beach. Lucas accompanied Texo and Zinjace along with their new friends. At first, some of the Adonia were apprehensive because they had never been on a ship in their lives. Others were excited by the new experience. Of course, after an hour's crossing, some of the Adonia began to vomit from the movement of the vessel. Their companions looked at Lucas in fear. Don't worry, he said. Some people get seasick when they get on a ship. That's normal. It will pass when you get off. 3 later, the defender arrived at the port of Loomis. Aelios had posted a guard there to inform him of the moment his revered leaders returned. Welcome, my lord Lucas. I will go and inform Lord Aelios immediately. Good. Go find him, Lucas ordered, and the guard ran off. Some time later, Aelios arrived hurriedly. My lord Lucas, how may I serve you? He asked, bowing. There's no time for that, Aelios. They are the Adonia. There are about 50 of them. They agreed to be part of this colony, but they will need food, water, and shelter while they adjust to life here. It will be as you command, Aelios replied, and he led them into the city, though they were still nervous because of Loomis's reputation as a cursed city. Work was still being done to clear the buildings of weeds and small animals, but there was a warehouse that would serve as their temporary shelter. They were impressed by the buildings, especially the one they were occupying. The evacuation took several days until the entire tribe was safe in Loomis. Aelios had ordered temporary beds, blankets, food, and water to be brought to them. They had never eaten potatoes before, but they loved them, as well as the meat, fish, and fruit. By then, word had spread. People came to see them. Humans, Pterids, Acaros, and other races came to welcome them. Gradually, they adapted and found different jobs in Lemanian society. Although at first they didn't understand the monetary system, which replaced the barter system they were used to, they grasped the advantages of the society they were joining. Meanwhile, Kamiter had been freed and began eating the rations left by his former captors. He couldn't deny that what he was eating tasted delicious. For someone whose diet consisted exclusively of raw meat, it tasted very good. He returned to the cave where he had been hiding. There, sleep overcame him. Yufril appeared to him in his Talid form. You are a disgrace to me and your race. You let that giant defeat you. You didn't even have an honorable death. But, my lord, he was too strong. And he says that the lords he serves are much stronger than he is. The Cyclops replied fearfully. Yes, they serve my brother Zariel. and he has been using them to disrupt the division that my brother Chill and I have created over the last 1,000 years. This will be the last time you see me. A worm as weak as you doesn't deserve my attention." Then Yufril disappeared. At that, Kamiter awoke and began to sob. His god had abandoned him. But then he remembered Lucas's words and Felux's, and he remembered how happy they had seemed, not to mention Rados. Felix and Lucas had already returned to Feluc, and Rados had gone back home to his wife, who was expecting a little giant in a few months. Felix had decided to take the day off, so Lucas stayed behind in charge at the government building. "Would you like some tea, Lord Lucas?" Lexa asked him. She was a young Aemsis woman who had become his assistant. "Mr. Aelios has come to give you his report on the Adonia," Lexa said. "Thank you, Lexa," Lucas replied. Then Aelios entered the office. He looked at Lexa, and they both blushed. "Is that so?" These two are head over heels for each other, but neither of them dares to make the first move. "I'll have to give them a little nudge," Lucas thought, smiling with amusement. Aelios reminded him too much of how he used to be. Even with all the responsibility he now had, Aelios wasn't very confident. "Very well, Aelios. Tell me how our Adonia friends are settling in," Lucas said, trying to look serious. "Oh, very well. They're getting comfortable in houses we prepared for them. We also implemented your idea of using boats for fishing with the nets you designed," Aelios said admiringly. "I didn't design them. They've been used for centuries in my world," Lucas replied. He hated being given credit that belonged to others. "Are you having trouble organizing the work?" Lucas asked. "Unfortunately, I'm not as organized as I could be," Aelios replied, embarrassed in front of one of his idols. Then Lucas summoned Lexa again. "Please, have a seat." She sat next to the mage, and they began their conversation about managing the colony. Lucas noticed the furtive glances they exchanged, each thinking the other wouldn't notice. "Are you hungry? It's almost lunchtime. Why don't we go eat at Clerix's restaurant?" They both nodded. They wondered about the sudden change of plans. "If anyone needs me, I'll be at Clerix's restaurant," Atexa, Lexa's sister and another equally competent assistant, informed him. Lucas said this because Aronix usually sought him out to discuss some matter. Minutes later, the three of them were having lunch at the restaurant. The conversation continued in a businesslike fashion. Lucas finished first, and just as he expected, Aronix was there. "Oh, it seems I have something else to attend to, but you two carry on. I heard some good ideas from both of you. Keep it up," Lucas said, walking away with Aronise, leaving them mid-sentence. Lucas returned to his office with Aronise, and they resolved the matter immediately. Aronise left, but none of this escaped Atexa's notice. "You did all that just to leave them alone at the restaurant. Isn't that right, Lord Lucas?" the assistant asked, smiling maliciously. "You caught me red-handed, Atexa," Lucas said, smiling. "I usually think it's inappropriate for a boss to interfere like that in the lives of their subordinates. But in this case, I approve. She's very much in love with him, and he with her," she said, smiling. "What do you think about sending her to Loomis as his assistant, Atexa?" Lucas asked. "Oh, I'll miss her, but I think it would be perfect for her. I've always thought Aelios is a good man, and I believe he would make her happy," Atexa reasoned. "But without her, you'll have more work," Lucas replied. "Well, yes, at least until I train someone," the assistant responded. "Well, all this hand copying is getting complicated. I need to speak with Shinri," Lucas said, changing the subject. "Let me guess. You are about to introduce a new invention. Am I wrong?" Atexa asked. "Have I become that predictable?" Lucas asked, feigning annoyance. "After 4 years working here, I expect things like this from you. I imagine you'll be with Mr. Shinri all afternoon," the assistant replied. "Very well. I'll also need Lord Epitras and Lord Talos. Tell them to meet me at Mr. Shinri's workshop." "Good afternoon, Mr. Lucas," Shinri greeted. "Hello, how are you? I've been thinking about how to solve our problem of copying books. I want to know how small you can make your molds, preferably out of lead. For example, individual letters. We need many letters, numbers, capital letters, and symbols, as small as possible, that can be combined to form words on a page. We'll need Beres and perhaps Dempteras, or possibly one of his sons," Lucas explained. "First, try engraving to form letters. It can't be cursive because you have to separate and join the letters to form words. I'll draw you a picture of what I want. I know it will take time because it's laborious. These letters must be in a channel like this. I know it will be difficult, but please try," Lucas requested. "Another invention from your world? I'll do my best." So far, All the inventions you've proposed have been a success, the blacksmith remarked. That's because they've been used in my world for centuries, Lucas replied. Meanwhile, Kamiter struggled to survive on the island, hunting small animals and gathering fruits and berries, something he never thought he would do. He was still saddened because the only time his creator had appeared to him was to insult him, telling him he was abandoning him. That night, as he slept, a figure in the form of a talent appeared to him, but it looked different from the form Euphril had taken. This form was more illuminated. Greetings, Kamiter. My name is Zariel. Zariel introduced himself. Why do you come to me, my lord? The Cyclops asked fearfully. I no longer feel Euphril's blessing upon you. Has he abandoned you? Zariel asked, pretending not to know beforehand. Yes, my lord, the talent replied. Would you like to be my friend, Kamiter? Zariel asked. Why do you come to me, my lord? I'm worthless. That's why Lord Euphril rejected me. Kamiter said bitterly. On the contrary, Kamiter, you are worth a great deal, and you can prove it by helping to save your people from the Gors, Zariel said solemnly. Save them? What are the Gors doing to them? Kamiter asked, alarmed. The Gors are enslaving your people to use them in their wars. Chill and Euphril are supporting them in this. And Euphril doesn't care how many of your people die or if they face extinction. He is only interested in how much hatred he can absorb. But you can help save them. Euphril has lied to them for centuries, telling them that a death in battle is an honorable death. In reality, that is a senseless death. But a life given to save your people is absolutely honorable, the deity explained. Why don't you join my people? You experienced firsthand how strong they are. They can teach you just as they taught Rados. He used to be their enemy, but now he's their friend and part of the great nation of Feluc. Humans, giants, Terids, Acheros, and lately, Acuans, and soon Teleras, all live there. Zariel explained. Altogether, I already thought it was strange to see a giant with humans, the Talid replied. You're about to wake up. I'll come back in 3 days to hear your decision. At that, the Kamiter woke up. Now he had much to think about. Although Euphril had done his best to separate them, he still felt loyalty to his own kind. They were his people, after all. And if Zariel had found a way to unite so many races, perhaps the old way of doing things wasn't the best. But there was a stumbling block. He and his people were hated by all, thanks to the teachings of Euphril and his brother Chill. But now they faced extinction because of their support for the Gors. No, if there was a better path for him and his people, he would find it. Although it was also possible that Zariel was lying. There was nothing to stop the gods from lying. But he had already been abandoned by Euphril. He had nothing to lose. 3 days passed, and as he slept, Zariel appeared to him. My lord, I have decided to serve you. Just tell me what I must do. Very well. I knew you would make the right decision. In 3 days, at noon, wait for the boat of my followers. Felix saw Zariel's smiling face in his dreams. Very well. What do you want now? He said sulkily. Oh, nothing. But you should send Rados tomorrow with Alios. And tell Rados to go to the island the Adonia occupied to find an ally against the Gors, Zariel explained. Who? Kamiter? The still young man asked. Exactly. I explained the situation to him, Zariel said. What situation? The Feluc leader asked. The Gor situation, but I also told him they're enslaving their people to use in their wars, Zariel said. You didn't tell us that part. Always leaving something out, aren't you? Felix said sarcastically. I suspect you don't like me, Zariel said. Oh, I do like you, but I'm irritated by your habit of not presenting all the information. Consider it an oversight on my part, Felix. After all, even I make mistakes. Zariel retorted. Very well. Let's leave it at that, said Felix. But it will be difficult for him to assimilate with us, given that his race has been attacking others for centuries. Felix indicated. That's due to Euphril's teachings and lies. But, if anyone can get the Talids to join us, it's you and your brother. The spirit replied. While Lucas was in Barre's workshop working on the movable type printing press project he had in mind, because making copies of books by hand was cumbersome and time-consuming, and a printing press like the one Johann Gutenberg invented would allow it to be done much faster, he noticed some figurines of himself, Felix, Gazlo, Aeronais, Deslet, and even Rados. They were small, but extremely detailed. Did you make these? He asked Barres when he came out of the back room. No. These are the work of my youngest son, Taze. He wants to make toys like these to earn a living. What do you think? Lucas asked. Well, we've sold several, but Felix's, Lucas and Deslet's are the best sellers. but not enough for him to have his own workshop. Just then, a boy arrived at the workshop. The boy saw Lucas and became nervous. "Lord Lucas," the boy exclaimed, but Berace intervened. "Lord Lucas, this is my son, Taze," the carpenter said, touching the boy's shoulders. "Hello, Taze. I saw the figurines you made, and they're impressive," Lucas said, smiling. "You think they're impressive?" the boy asked incredulously. "Yes. In fact, I was so impressed that I want you to do a job for me. I need to talk to your father about a project I have with him. But when I'm done with him, I'll talk to you about the small project I have for you. I'll see you later." With that, Lucas went into the back of the workshop, followed by Berace. Taze was nervous. His father told him his work was exceptional, but he was his father. He was supposed to say something like that to encourage his son. But now someone important like Lord Lucas was saying he was impressed with his work. That made him proud, but at the same time, it made him nervous. What if he failed at the job Lord Lucas had entrusted to him? After all, he was his idol. After half an hour, Lucas came out of the back room. But by then, poor Taze was a bundle of nerves. Lucas arrived with a large sheet of paper, which Berace handed him. Lucas told the boy to sit at the table. He sat on the other side of the table and placed the sheet of paper on it. "This is what I want you to do first. You must make a table with alternating squares like this." Saying this, he drew a chessboard. "When you finish, come to my office and I'll tell you what the next step is," Lucas said with a smile. "I won't let you down, my lord," the young man said with conviction. "Don't try to do it quickly. It's just a game, so it's not that important, but I do think it will be popular. I think you can ask your father for help to make it look good." Lucas offered his hand to the young man, who must have been about 14 years old. The boy shook it apprehensively, and Berace, who had been hidden behind the door, watching his son's interaction with Lucas with amusement, came out of his hiding place and said, "See, he doesn't eat people. Don't be so nervous when you talk to him. Do you want me to help you with your project?" The carpenter asked his son. "No, I think yours is much more important," the boy answered. "He told me it was a system for making books faster and cheaper than they are now. Right now at school, you all have to share the few books there are," Berace said. "That's true. But how is it possible that Lord Lucas has so many ideas?" Taze asked. "I'll tell you when you're older," the carpenter promised. A day and a half later, Lucas was sitting in his office when Atexa, who now had more work due to his sister Lex's absence, but didn't mind because she knew her sister was happy, entered. "My lord, young Taze is here, just as you told me," the assistant reported. "Show him in," Lucas said, pulling out a drawer in his desk and placing it on top. The teenager, still apprehensive, entered. He already had the finished chessboard. "Welcome. Please sit down," Lucas said kindly. With that, he spread out the sheets of paper with drawings of the chess pieces and their respective names. "Show me the board you made," Lucas said. Taze, somewhat nervously, took it out of a bag he was carrying. "Excellent," Lucas said approvingly. "I want you to carve these figures. They have to fit inside the squares of the board." He continued explaining the shape, color, and quantity they should have. "May I take these papers, Mr. Lucas?" the young man asked shyly. "Of course. I don't expect you to do them from memory," Lucas told him. "Very well, Mr. Lucas. I won't let you down," Taze said, trying to sound confident. "Work on this project in your free time. Don't neglect your other duties for this." "There's no rush," Lucas advised. A week later, the printing press project was going well. Although they still had a way to go before all the parts worked as a single unit, they had made progress. Felix and Lucas were observing and supervising the project. Then they went to Berace's workshop to make a few suggestions. They found Berace, and Taze was there. "My lords Lucas and Felix," the young man exclaimed. "Hello, Taze. How are you?" "Very well, my lord Lucas. This morning I finished the project you assigned me. I'm going to find it," the teenager exclaimed excitedly. "What is he talking about?" Felix asked. "Well, there isn't much entertainment in this world, so I decided to introduce board games, and seeing how talented that boy is, I commissioned him to create a prototype," Lucas replied. Just then, Taze appeared with two bags. The first contained the board, and the other the pieces. He placed the board first, but he had no idea how the pieces went, so Lucas took them and put them in their positions. "So you commissioned him to create a chess game? Interesting. How about a game, Lucas?" Felix asked, sitting down in front of the board. "Very well," Lucas replied, sitting down as well. "Look carefully, Taze. This is how it's played." Lucas understood, so it was his turn to move first. "This is a pawn. It can only move forward or diagonally to kill an enemy piece," Lucas explained. He continued explaining the movement of each piece while playing against his brother. Taze and Berace were fascinated by the game. After all, board games were something completely new to them. 45 minutes later, Lucas emerged victorious. "You haven't lost your touch, Luke," Felix said. After all, it wasn't the first time he'd beaten his brother at chess. 2 weeks later, all the problems they had with the movable type printing press were resolved. The first book printed was a school textbook. Both Felix and Lucas emphasized this. Lucas appointed Tamer, son of Felner, and Talyrus, son of Eldarus, to operate the printing press after thorough training, overseen by Lucas. Meanwhile, in Loomis, Kamiter, aboard the Defender, accompanied by Rados, arrived at the city's shipyard. He pondered how to apologize to the Adonia. All his life he had followed Euphral's creed, and it had only brought him suffering and the people he attacked. Now his mission was to save his people, and now he had the support of Zariel and Feluc. They walked to the old Loomis court building next to the royal palace, which was now used as a warehouse, armory, and training center due to its size. In the court building was Aelios, accompanied by Lexa, who recoiled in fear when she saw him. Since childhood, she had heard stories of how cruel the Talids were. "Don't be afraid, Lexa. He is our ally now," Aelios reassured her. "Welcome, Lord Rados and Lord Kamiter. Lord Zariel appeared to me in my dreams last night and told me you would come. I know it will be difficult at first to get used to us, and for us to get used to you. But if it is Lord Zariel's will, I believe it will be for the best. After all, we will need all the friends and allies we can get." "Friends?" Kamiter asked, incredulous. "Yes, I don't know if Lord Rados has told you, but he used to be our enemy," Aelios explained. "That's right. I used to be the leader of a clan of giants. I planned to enslave all the other races to serve us. But Lord Felix challenged me and defeated me. As is the tradition among giants, only the strongest can lead. He could have killed me, but he didn't. Then, when my clan and I went to Feluc, we saw several races living in harmony, something never seen before. We decided to join them as equals." The giant finished with a smile. "I imagine you must be hungry, Mr. Kamiter," Aelios said, and instructed Lexa to order food, which she did. As Lexa brought the food and placed it on the table, everyone sat down, with Lexa being the last. The man was used to a diet consisting almost exclusively of meat, but he loved the portions Felix and the others had left him when they released him on the island. Now he was trying other dishes similar to those, and he loved them too. "This is delicious. I never thought something without meat could taste so good," he said with satisfaction. 2 weeks later, Felix and Lucas were present, honoring Deslet's invitation to celebrate the birth of his second son. There was food, drinks, and music with the traditional instruments of the Tarids, such as flutes, ocarinas, drums, and a type of dance that only members of this race could perform. The music was pleasant, though not very familiar to the two brothers. Each race had its own celebrations and instruments according to its own traditions. When the celebration ended, they thanked their host. As they walked toward their respective homes, Felix had an idea. "Hey, Lucas, what if we started a celebration that included all the inhabitants of the nation?" Felix asked enthusiastically. "That would be magnificent. Right now, all the races and clans have their own celebrations. None of them include others unless, by invitation," said Felix's younger brother. "The invitation will include the other races. This would make the citizens of Feluc even more united. How about we call a meeting of the entire governing assembly to discuss it? We also need to discuss the matter of Kamiter," Felix concluded. The next day they called an extraordinary meeting. When the delegates arrived, Aeronais, Epitras, Deslet, Talos, Alter, Berace, Gorpas, Gazlo, Natalis, Felner, and Zalopto. "Gentlemen," Felix began, "we have 2 matters to discuss that we consider important, but I would also like to suggest something else. First, we will be receiving a Talid named Kamiter into the city," Felix announced, surprising everyone present. "A Talid?" Aeronais asked, astonished. "Yes, according to what Zariel told us. They are a creation of Euphral, Lord of Wrath. But Lord Kamiter was abandoned by Euphral, yet he wishes to be a follower of Zariel and wants to join us," Lucas explained. "Why would a Talid want to join us?" Zalopto asked. "I know the Talids have been hostile to everyone, but that's because of Euphral and Shill's teachings. But we discovered the Gors are using the Talids for their wars, and Lord Kamiter wants to save his people from extinction. He's coming from Loomis with Lords Rados and Aelios." He'll be here soon. But don't worry, Rados will be his escort. Zariel assured us he really wants to join us. Feluc said, "Well, Lord Feluc, you two have united many races that were once at odds with one another. The Talads are strong, and we will need all the allies we can get against the Gors. I will give this Talad a chance to prove himself worthy of our friendship," Fellner said. "Does everyone agree? Raise your hand if you do," Feluc said. Everyone raised their hand except Natalie's. "Are you against it, Lord Natalie's?" Lucas asked. "I don't trust the Talads. We have been their prey for centuries," the old Ogder said. "My people and I will not go near him," Natalie stated. "I understand your feelings, Lord Natalie's, but he will be under constant surveillance," Feluc agreed. "We will use the printing press to distribute the announcement throughout the village so that no one will be surprised or frightened to see Lord Kamiter. There is another matter we would like to discuss, a national celebration." "National?" Aronise asked. "Yes. We were present at the celebration Lord Deslet held to celebrate the birth of his third child. And we had the idea to have a celebration where everyone, regardless of race, could participate," Lucas explained. "We've never done anything like this before," Gaslow observed. "That's true, but we've done many things in Feluc that have never been done before. I think this celebration will bring all the citizens even closer together," Lucas affirmed. "And what shall we call this celebration?" Talos asked. "How about the Feluc Foundation Festival? I still remember the day we appointed you leaders of our community and changed the town's name to Feluc. In fact, that date will be next month," Aronise explained. "Sounds good to me," Gaslow said. "I also want to make a suggestion. You know how all races have different names for the days of the week?" "That's true," Deslet agreed. "Well, my suggestion is to name the days of the week after positive spirits. Would you agree?" Feluc asked. Everyone supported the idea. "Very well. The days of the week will be called Zariel, Lumiel, Kalil, Dislel, Zalel, Beniel, and Raphael instead of using the numbers 1 through 7. Feluc said, and the others seconded him. "Very well. Is everyone in agreement?" Feluc asked. This time, every hand went up without exception. "Very well. We have a lot to plan to make this celebration a success," Lucas affirmed. They used the printing press to send 3 announcements to the town. "Attention, Feluc people. In a few days, a Talad named Kamiter will arrive. Please do not fear. From now on, he will be our ally. Please receive him with courtesy and kindness." The second announcement read, "Attention, Feluc people. The government has decided to begin the Feluc Foundation Festival in 1 month. Please, members of all races, bring all your suggestions to the government building. The purpose of this festival is to strengthen the bonds of friendship among our people." And the third announcement read, "The days of the week will henceforth be called Zariel, Lumiel, Kalil, Dislel, Zalel, Beniel, and Raphael, in that order." The first announcement was met with some skepticism, so some people feared but others adopted a wait-and-see attitude. The second announcement was received with joy by most of the citizens. People of different races brought suggestions about the music, dance, food, drinks, and activities to be enjoyed at the festival. Preparations took weeks. It was decided that this would be a day when no one was obligated to work their normal jobs. The expression, "Happy Feluc Day," became part of the local vernacular. The third announcement was well received by the people because almost everyone revered these spirits. Lucas was in his office when his assistant informed him that Taze was coming to visit. Taze entered and bowed. "Don't be so formal, Taze. Tell me what brings you here," Lucas said, smiling. "I want to tell you that the chess set is selling like crazy. By the time I finish making one, it's practically sold out. I had to talk to my father, so he would hire Antius, my friend from the AIMSIS. He's helping me a lot. And I'm also including the instruction manual you had printed with the set. My father is helping to build a second printing press because the original one can't keep up with demand," Taze explained excitedly. "Excellent. And when you have time, I'll show you 2 other games that use the same board as chess. One is known as checkers, and the other is Chinese checkers. By the way, I think you could display the games at one of the kiosks we'll set up on Feluc Day. But don't neglect your studies," Lucas advised him. "Really?" the boy asked, barely able to contain his excitement. "You'll finish school in 2 years. By then, we'll talk about setting up your own workshop," Lucas promised. "I won't betray the trust you're placing in me," the young man swore. After Taze left, Finn, the Amasai representative, entered. He looked much healthier than the last time he'd seen him. "I wanted to present our suggestion for Feluc Day. one of our most cherished dances. We'd like your permission to begin rehearsals in our community assembly hall, Finn explained. I'd love to see those rehearsals, Lucas said. We'll start them tomorrow since we've received your approval. The next morning, Lucas went to observe the rehearsals. There were about 15 maidens from the Amesis. They all went to greet Lucas. Lord Lucas, they shouted excitedly. Lucas was already used to being treated like a celebrity, so he smiled and nodded at them. The director of the dance routine, named Ponderas, approached him and offered her hand, which he shook. Welcome, Lord Lucas. Please sit down and prepare to be impressed, she told him. And indeed, after half an hour, he was pleasantly surprised. Their movements were graceful and fluid, almost like ballet dancers. You will definitely be part of the celebration show. Keep rehearsing. You're excellent, Lucas remarked. After that, he returned to the office, where Alia, Neras, and Lazar were waiting. Hello, my love, his wife said, hugging him. He embraced her back. Alia interrupted them with a joke. Hey, not here. Wait until you get home, she said, smiling. What brings you here? Lucas asked, letting go of Neras. We have an idea for something to do during Feluc Day, Alia replied. An idea? Lucas asked, intrigued. Yes, a small exhibition tournament between my Amazons and Lazar's knights, Alia answered. Lucas had told Neras about the legend of the Amazons, and she liked it so much that when Alia was looking for a name for her unit of female soldiers, she told her sister, who decided to name them after it. As for Lazar's unit, he had told him stories of the Knights of the Round Table and other tales of chivalry, such as El Cid Kamiter, so Lazar adopted that name for his unit of male soldiers. Both groups had been trained by Feluc and Lucas for years. They were now two armies with hundreds of active members and thousands of reservists each, ready to be activated in case of war or a natural disaster. Although lately, things have been quiet. I like the idea, and perhaps it will pique the interest of some young men to enlist in the army. Although I wonder if, given the looming threat of the Gors, we should require military service when young men turn 18, Lucas said thoughtfully. I think it's a good idea, Lord Lucas, Lazar replied. I agree as well. We don't know how strong the Gors are, Neras said. The preparations for the festival were proceeding smoothly. Even the Teleras, Adonias, Acuns, and Lighters were invited, although the latter were expected after sunset. Different dishes would be prepared to showcase the culinary skills of each race. Various alcoholic beverages representative of each race would also be made. Artisans would offer their wares. Even Shinri would have a stall to display his creations. Rados and Kamiter were already en route to Feluc, along with 2 of the Knights of Feluc and 2 of the Amazons. I've never seen anything like it, Kamiter said thoughtfully. That's nothing, Lord Kamiter. When we reach Feluc, you'll see many things you've never seen before, Rados replied. Just then, a Larkon emerged from the thicket. The Amazons and Knights exchanged glances and immediately attacked the beast's legs. Kamiter was about to intervene, but Rados stopped him. Let them do their job, Lord Kamiter. If the Larkon proves too much for them, then we'll intervene. The Larkon stopped and watched them. They continued attacking the creature's legs until it writhed in pain on the ground, and one of them began attacking the animal's neck. After 5 blows, he managed to sever its head. Kamiter was astonished. These simple, weak humans had exterminated a beast he wasn't even sure he could defeat, but their fighting style reminded him of Rados. How is it possible that these humans, even women, could defeat the Larkon? The Talad asked. That's due to the training Lords Feluc and Lucas have put us through. The giant responded. You, as one of our allies, will receive the same training. But I warn you, it won't be easy, Rados replied. I never thought mere humans could be so formidable, and that explains how you defeated me so easily. I once fought a giant, and I had to struggle to defeat him, and he almost defeated me, Kamiter remarked. Well, even with my training, I still can't defeat Lords Feluc and Lucas. Incredible. Zariel's followers are far more powerful than I imagined, the Talad thought. Then they began to dismember the beast and place it in the cart, which already had various provisions, which surprised Kamiter. Why are you bringing that with us? It's not edible, the Talad asked. No, but weapons can be made from some of its parts, and light armor can be made from its hide. I think you'll get 5 gold coins for that at the market. The victor gets the spoils, Rados replied with a smile. Gold coins. What are those? Kamiter asked curiously. I see you have much to learn about our nation, Lord Kamiter. one of the Amazons told him. After 2 more days of travel, they arrived at the gates of the city of Feluc. "Welcome, Lords Rados and Kamiter. Lord Felix, Lucas, and the others are expecting you," said the guard, who also greeted the escort. "Oh, I see you hunted this down along the way," the guard remarked. "Open the door," ordered the other guard. Kamiter was impressed by everything he saw. For someone who didn't interact with anyone except to attack them, everything seemed incredible. And how astonished he had been when he saw the city of Feluc in the distance. When they entered and began walking down the street, everyone stared at Kamiter, some with fear because of the Talad's reputation, and others with curiosity because they had never seen a Talad before. When they arrived at the government building, they went inside, and in the conference room were Felix, Lucas, Aeronais, Deslet, Zalopto, Gazlo, Epitras, Natalis, and Akpedo. "Welcome, Mr. Kamiter," said Felix. Kamiter looked at the various representatives of different races for a moment, then knelt, surprising everyone present. "I know this gesture is not enough to atone for all the harm my race has done to yours, but from this moment on, I swear I will do everything in my power to somehow make amends." This gesture moved Natalis. He knew how proud the Talad race was, especially since they served the spirit of wrath. "I am willing to give you the opportunity to prove yourself. I sincerely hope that others of your race will abandon their former ways and join us," said the elder Ogder. The long-awaited day finally arrived. People of all races wandered through the public square. Stalls had been erected, displaying various goods. Shinri was there exhibiting his latest creations of weapons and protective gear. Beres also had several pieces of wood to show. His son, Taze, had his own exhibit, which he had created under Lucas's guidance. Sylph, despite her advanced age, was also displaying his wares, baskets, ropes, and various fabrics in a multitude of colors. There were also stands offering different alcoholic beverages representative of the various races. Succulent dishes were on offer, and people were encouraged to sample them. A stall displayed a variety of musical instruments from all the races. Thanks to Loomis's research, there were oil lamps that lasted for more than 8 hours and were quite bright, especially when placed strategically. However, these would only be used during the evening session. Lucas began the celebration. Felix had declined to give the opening speech because he detested public speaking. Lucas also disliked giving speeches, so he started the celebration with a short address. "Brothers of Feluc, thank you for welcoming us. My brother Felix and I, along with our families, appreciate everything you have done for us. This celebration is not to honor us, but to honor all the citizens of Feluc. Everything that has been achieved here is an achievement of all of us." At that, everyone gathered, from all races, erupted in cheers. Neras, Alia, Castor, Pollux, Felix the Younger, all looked at the brothers with pride. "Let the celebration begin," Lucas exclaimed. The celebration began with a concert performed by various races. The instruments ranged from flutes and drums to trumpets, guitars, and even ocarinas. The music was sublime, and the different races, each with their respective instruments, complemented one another. Next came a recital by the Aemsis. Their agile and synchronized movements astonished everyone present. Then came a small tournament between the Amazons of Olia and the Knights of Feluc. It began with a Feluc girl named Una against a young Alishian man named Aneto. Both took their stances with wooden swords. The objective was to touch the opponent's body 3 times. The first to do so would win. At first, they exchanged sword blows from different angles. Aneto surprised Una with a strike to her side. This caused her to change her stance, and this time, she surprised the knight, striking him on the shoulder. They both smiled. Once again, they exchanged sword blows and blocks, but this time the girl landed a blow to her rival's chest, bringing her within a single point of victory. This prompted Aneto to intensify his attack, but Una was prepared and surprised him with an agile backflip, delivering a thrust to his abdomen and defeating him. The rest of the tournament continued, sometimes with an Amazon winning, sometimes with a knight. There were even bets placed on who would win. In the afternoon, the tournament concluded, with the Amazons emerging victorious by a single point. The camaraderie between the races was palpable throughout the afternoon. People ate and drank from the various stalls, though many overindulged. Later that evening, another dance was performed, this time by the Teleras, who had been invited in advance. By then, the lighters had arrived and witnessed the dance. marveling at the dancers' graceful movements. They were their closest allies and friends, yet they had never witnessed anything like it. The celebration was a resounding success. Continue on episode 5.